Bible. God is the author of life. God places a high value upon life. He is displeased when someone dies. Are you there with me? Because the Bible says that He has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. So death is something that God hates. The life that many of us have flowing through us because of different experiences, individuals at times would shorten that life. And they would shorten the life by what we commonly know as suicide. Everybody, you deal with me.
Yeah.
Suicide, it is not a new idea. It is not something of our century or the century that preceded ours. Suicide has been with us for ages upon ages. As a matter of fact, within the Greco-Roman world, if someone had an insurmountable problem, it was believed that the best thing to do is to commit suicide. I believe this afternoon, as we set the platform for our presentation, we should look at the definition of suicide. So let us go together after the count of 3. 2, 3. What's the definition? No, that's not everybody. 2, 3. What it says? The act or an instance of taking one's own life voluntarily or intentionally. So suicide is when I have made up my mind to do what? To do what? Kill my life. I say kill my life. Alright. And there are many different ways in which this is done.
Question.
Yes.
You remember a couple of years ago, Jack Kevorkian was helping assist people with suicide. What you will talk about that? Helping
people. Alright, let us see where you're going to take that. Just make sure you note your questions. Okay. And I may ask you that you're going to refer the question a little later. So, but just remind me, right? Yes, remind me. Now, I told you that the Bible places a high value upon life. Let us read what the Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 11. After the count of 3. 2, 3. Read, everybody.
I know the plans.
I know the plans that I have for you, declare the Lord. They are plans of what? Peace and not disaster. Plans to give you a future filled with hope. So Christ is saying that He has special plans for our lives. This at times individuals may bring on the question. The Bible as we know it has the record of suicide. Can anyone tell me how many records we have about suicide in the Bible? Yes? Javon, you raise your hands? Anybody? I give you a gift right away if you can tell me. 3, incorrect. I'll take 1 more. 2, wrong. If I were in your position, and you say something?
1-7.
Pardon?
1-7.
Incorrect. It is 7. No, you see, if you were in Jeopardy, you'll get it wrong. He says about 7. Okay? I was about to say to you that since the Bible says that 7 is a number of perfection, complete, so the Bible has given us what? Complete suicide. Please don't go. you taking this thing, boy?
Yes.
So I'm in trouble here. The Bible records 7 suicides. In addition to this, we see many cases of attempted suicides and also individuals who would have requested that their lives should be taken. For instance, we know of Elijah asking that his life be taken. I think Jonah did the same. Did Jonah do it? Yes, Jonah did that. We see as it relates to attempted suicide. Remember the Philippian jailer?
Yeah.
After Paul and Silas, no, they weren't released when the earthquake and their chains fell off. He was about to plunge the sword into his midsection. That's what he wanted to do so that he can just die. So that's attempted suicide. But we're dealing here with cases of suicide. The very first reference of suicide, it is questionable. Why I say it is questionable? Because it was assisted or aided suicide, if you please. And the first, number one, who's number one? No. The first is, pardon?
Abimelech.
The difference between contemplating suicide and attempting, yes, there is. Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. So let me see. He was about to. What the reference is? I think it's Acts chapter 16. Scarborough can find that for us, and then we're going to look at it. But there is the difference between attempted suicide and contemplating suicide. Just get it for us. Abimelech is the first, right? Now, in the case of Abimelech, let us read what the Bible says. We're coming after we view this. Read, everybody, after the count of 3. 2 and 3, what it says.
Abimelech came to the tower.
He began
to fight.
He began to fight against it.
And went near
to the entrance of the tower to burn it down. That's what Abimelech did. Read now what it says. Then a woman threw a small millstone that hit Abimelech on the head and cracked his skull. We're going. So this is Abimelech. He's going down to light the tower. Abimelech was actually a king. That's what Abimelech was. He was successful in burning down a city before, etc. Remember, this is the time of the judges. So he was going here. These folk were trapped, and a woman threw a millstone and it cracked his skull. Read on what it says. What? He quickly called his armor bearer. He told him, take your sword and what? Kill me. I don't want what? Anyone to say a woman killed Abimelech. His armor bearer did as he said. So Abimelech died. Now in this case, and as we look at it, and suicide as is, folk consider this aided suicide because he asked the guy to kill him rather than Abimelech running the sword through himself. So we have this first case here with Abimelech. Yes. Scarborough, verse 20.
It says here, and the keeper of the prison, awaking out of his sleep and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled.
Okay, so this here was almost attempted suicide. Yes. Attempted suicide, but thank you very much. But then remember, we have attempted and contemplated. You say contemplated.
That was not attempted, that was contemplated.
He drew his sword.
Right. That's Saul cried out to him. The next verse says that Saul cried out.
The next verse will explain.
It says Paul cried with a loud voice saying, do thyself no harm.
Do thyself no harm. So remember, if I have a gun to my head, I'm attempting suicide. If I throw myself down, right? So let's agree to work with it. Yes.
That wouldn't be attempted if I don't do anything.
If you don't pull the trigger, so you contemplate.
They have people that actually shoot themselves and they don't die. So they attempted suicide but it never worked.
Alright.
Point taken, point taken.
Alright, good.
Point
He
taken.
contemplated suicide in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Amen. Number two. Who is our second suicide partner? No, not partner. Character. Who it is? Samson. Everybody knows about this. Let us go. Read everybody. 2, 3, what it says.
When all the Philistines was enjoying themselves.
No, that's not everybody. 2, 3, we going now.
When
all the Philistines were enjoying themselves, they said, call Samson to entertain us. Samson was called from the prison, and he made them laugh. They made him stand between two columns. Read on. Samson told the young man who was leading him by the hand, let me what? Rest. Let me touch the columns on which the building stands, so that I can lean against them. And it says, then Samson called to the Lord, Almighty God, please remember me, God. Give me what? Strength, just what? One more time. Let me get what? Even with the Philistine for at least one of my 2 eyes. What it says? Then Samson what? Fell the 2 middle columns on which the building stood, with his right hand on one column and his left hand on the other. He pushed hard against them. Let me die with the Philistines, he said. With that he pushed with all his might, and the building what? Fell on the rulers and everyone in it. So he killed what? More Philistine when he died than when he had what? When he
was alive.
You get it, yes. Yes.
Is it really suicide since he asked God to let him die?
It's suicide. He killed himself with them.
You also asked God to do it.
Yes. So you say that God aided in the suicide. Yes.
What did you say? I don't see. I see the same good prophecy. Carrying out God's work in a kind of weird way, in which she killing the Philistine, which back then were killed. No.
He killed himself. What's your intentions? You kill yourself. Now let us go forward for a moment. We are going to analyze each case in a little while, right? Let us go to number 3. Good. Who is our third character? Anybody?
Is it Judas?
Our third character is Saul, King Saul. Let us read everybody. 2, 3, what it says.
Then
said Saul unto his armor bearer, draw thy sword, and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through, and abuse me. But his armor bearer would not, for he was what? Sore afraid. Therefore, Saul took a sword and did what? Fell upon it. That is what he did. However, if we read the next chapter, what we're going to recognize is that a little boy, an Amalekite, said that he saw him on his sword, he wasn't dead, and he killed him. Remember the guy went to David and he told David that. And then what happened? David did what? Killed him because he said he killed the Lord's anointed. So he died because he took credit for killing Saul. Was it a lie? We are not sure. If you read 2 Kings chapter 1, it should be about verse 10 or somewhere around there. You can read it. But we have Saul. But now let us look at the next. Who is our next candidate? Candidate number 4. Let us look. Who it is? Saul armor-bearer. Good. Let us read, everybody. 2, 3, what it says. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead.
He felt like...
Now hold a moment. He saw that Saul was dead. No, well, you see, the thing is that he didn't check his pulse, so... So yes. So when he saw that Saul was dead, he did what? He fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So the 4th guy is the armor-bearer. Number 5. Number 5 is who? Ahithophel. Do you guys know this fella?
No.
Y'all don't know him. Now this guy, we're going to analyze this case in a little while, right? Ahithophel. Let us read now. Read 2, 3, what it says. In and you can take the references, right? 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23. Read everybody. 2, 3, what it says. And when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass or his donkey, and arose and got him home to his house, to his city, and put his house in order. He wrote his note and hanged himself and died and was buried in the sepulchre of his father. So Ahithophel. And we go now to number 6. Who is number 6?
That could be our next one.
Number 6 is Zimri, former king. Let us read, everybody. 1 Kings chapter 16 and verse 15. 2, 3. The ladies read it.
In the 20th and 70th of Abib.
Oh boy, stop please.
Everybody.
Men, read with them. 1, 2, 3.
In the 20th.
In 20th and 7th year of Asa, king of Judah, did Zimri reign 7 days in Tirzah. And the people were encamped against Gibeton, which belonged to the Philistines. So he was a king, right? Let us go on, and it says, and the people that were encamped heard say, Zimri has conspired and has also slain the king. Wherefore, all Israel made Omri, the captain of the host, king over Israel that day in the camp. So what he actually did, Zimri went into the assembly, he ripped through the king. That's what he did. So Omri was made king. So we continue reading. Man, read these stories, they're real dramatic in the Bible. Continue what it says. And Omri went up to Gibeton, and all Israel went with him, and they besieged Tirzah. We go now. And it came to pass, when Zimri saw that the city was taken, that he went into the palace of the king's house, and burnt the king's house over him with fire and died. So this partner, he went into the palace, he threw his kerosene oil or gasoline, he lit it and he died in the fire. Real drama, right? And we go to number 7, the infamous Judas. Yes. No, I don't know. I just heard okay, he burned himself in the house. I don't know what kind of gas they had, right? Alright. Good. So we go with the infamous Judas. So let us read everybody 2, 3 what it says. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and what? Brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and did what? Hanged himself. So we have these 7 scenarios before us. We have the references, we have the category of why they did it. Abimelech, he lacked personal identity. Remember what Abimelech said? You all remember what Abimelech said? Abimelech said that I do not want it to be said that a woman killed Abimelech. Pardon? Him right? Yeah, pride. Yeah, so, you know, lack of personal identity. You see, it was such a chauvinistic society, if you please, that he didn't want that at all to be said. And we know what he did. It's the sword that killed him. When we look at Samson, it was because of revenge. And revenge for what they did to his eyes and his entire body. So that is what Samson wanted. He wanted to die with them. Somebody, okay, good. When we look at Saul, Saul committed suicide because he was rejected and because of failure. Yes. Pardon?
Say it right.
Okay, you know what? Let me use one of these microphones and somebody can roam with this. You can. Mic check. Yes. Yes. Look, it's Tiara, but Tahira.
If they want to say something, let them put up their hands.
Yes, you just raise your hands and then yes.
Wasn't he supposed to kill the Philistines in the beginning?
Yes, he should have done that.
So you wouldn't say he was just carrying out his duty and saw him like a suicide bomber? But he just didn't kill him again? But I wouldn't say
you know what? You guys are so smart. They say that some schools would say that Samson was the first Al-Qaeda operative. That's what they would say. But remember that those guys who go about doing this stuff right now, it is a destructive mission that they are actually engaging in. And we cannot associate the whole context of the Old Testament, the whole drama, if you please, that took place then, the warring of the nations. Some would even say the warring of the gods, where God outlined his superiority as the God of the nation, the God of all earth, as Samson being a suicide bomber, or a suicide what? Collapser. Right? Yes, Jermaine.
Well, with Samson, something we should remember. Earlier in the book, it says that the Spirit of God left him. So there's no record of it ever returning to him. It's even recorded that even though the Spirit of God left him, he still had his strength, and it was tied to his hair. So when his hair grew back, automatically his strength would go back. But it does not mean that God was pleased with him again. So that's something to remember. Even though his strength returned, even though he killed the Philistines, it doesn't mean that...
No, let us just allow him to express what we're going to do. We're going to share our point of view. I am facilitating, I'll moderate. That's what I'll do, right? Yes.
Yes, it was Yes, he must kill the Philistines, etc. That was part of his mission. But at the same time, it doesn't mean he carried it out in the way that God wanted him to carry it out.
Okay, that's true. Yes, that's true. However, let us just think. Remember, Samson's strength was not attached to the ear. His strength wasn't attached to the ear.
The ear was a symbol.
The ear was a symbol. Because remember, even after the ear, the Bible says that the ear started to grow. But then as it relates to the whole pushing down of the building, he asked for strength. That is what he did, right? Yes. Dennis?
So it became a symbol, right? Doesn't mean that means that the strength doesn't come from the ear. That's what you say. Secondly, in order for you to push down two columns, because I know for a fact you, Naira, and somebody could go right there, two pillars right there. You can't just go right there and just push. God, you can't push that enough to make it fall. God had to be in him.
Yes.
Seriously, so I wouldn't consider that as a suicide. If God does not like suicide, why then did he give Samson the strength to do whatever that was? It was a sacrifice.
Let me just tell you this here, right? And I would want us to stay on course here. And I would not delve into certain theological realms lest we lose the essence of our presentation for this afternoon. But God chooses at times to move in ways that we just cannot account for. We can't put any logics to it. That's what we can do. But what happened? He died in it. So it's suicide based on the definition. I have ordained and then we go on to the next.
No, just to add to it, I was just saying that in order for us to
no, use the mic please. So that everyone can hear.
I was saying that in order for us to define what he did, we have to define first the word suicide. And based on the definition of suicide, it is to take one's life voluntarily or intentionally. Now, did Samson take his life voluntarily or intentionally?
Yes. Yes. He said that I might die with them, yes.
Okay, then he did commit what?
Suicide and murder. Suicide and murder.
Suicide and murder. Yes. Suicide and then not a double homicide, but a what? It's a few thousand mass homicide. Yes. That's a massive R. Yes, Shumi.
Okay, based on that definition and the whole circumstance, what happened, what would we say Jesus did?
We're not getting into we're not going into the theological stuff.
Alright, now what I'm going to do, now just one moment. Alright. Now, here it is. One. Okay, listen. Alright. Order in the court, please. Order in the court. Maybe have some order, please. Shemaine, it's a brilliant question that you asked. One that has been asked by many scholars of the past. And right? And we're going to hold this here now and come in the afternoons, Bible class, 3:30. I'm doing an advertisement for you, right? We deal with all of these questions, right? But thank you very much. The next we have, it is Saul. You got with Saul? Yes, we deal with Saul, right? Because of failure. Remember that Saul failed. He was rejected by God. So that's why he did it. His armor bearer. Impulse. And let me tell you this. 40% of all teenage suicide is impulsive. 40%. So it's not because they're depressed. It's not because they have financial problem, but because somebody did it, because my hero did it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Impulsive.
Ripple effect. Yeah.
So that's how he did it. Ahithophel. Ahithophel was a very, very brilliant guy. He was one of the advisors during the time when David was king, and it was the time when Absalom, remember when Absalom kind of went against his father? Remember the story there? So whenever Ahithophel actually gave a counsel, it was considered as the word of God. And Absalom wanted to know what he should do. Should they pursue David or not? As a matter of fact, Ahithophel told him one time to what? Sleep with his father's wife. Wives, you remember the story? Yeah. Those of you who read it, read the chapter preceding this. And now he said that, listen, what we are going to do, we're going to go after him so that we're going to take him and we're going to capture him. But guess what happened? They asked for another opinion. And it was contrary to that of Ahithophel. And Ahithophel, when he saw that his counsel was not taken, Ahithophel said, listen, I'm going to just ride home on my donkey. He went, he put his family in order, wrote his suicide note, and he hanged himself. That is what he did. So he was bitter. That was his problem, bitter. And some people, because they're very bitter, they commit suicide. And then they had Zimri who was a king. And he had problems with authority. Do you know some people always want to be in charge of? Some people who don't want to follow. So he had that problem. He wanted to be in charge. He wanted to, because now listen, he went and he assassinated that king. But, and now the guys are coming, he said, listen, by the way, nobody ain't killing me either. So the man just went into the house, Dennis, and he lit the house on fire. I don't know if it's some explosive device he used or whatever, but that's what he did, and he killed himself. And then, well, everybody, we know the infamous Judas, and what he did. And he went and he hanged himself. By the way, do you know that hanging is the #1 means of committing suicide? Hanging. Yes, Sissy.
If we go back to Ahithophel.
The mic, please.
Now, you said that Ahithophel killed himself because he was bitter. But to me, it was more than that. Because remember that David set it up, you know, that somebody would go. I don't quite remember the name of the person. But he set up the scene because he knew that Ahithophel always gave good advice, counsel.
Yes.
And if they followed him, they would catch David. So David set up somebody else to interact. It was a setup.
And I set up.
Okay, and what happened? You say he was bitter, but it is not only that he was bitter. He knew that Absalom was going to fail. And all of them would die. All of them who were following Absalom. So he killed himself before all of them.
Well, all right. But there was the aspect of bitterness there in him.
Yes.
And now, if you read that story, and when his counsel wasn't taken, and the other guy gave the counsel, when that woman hid Jonathan and the other guy in a well, and they put over cover, and then she threw a whole set of seed over there, so nobody would know. So when the guys came looking, they don't know that the guys are in the well. And so, read the Bible, sweet story, better than Hollywood. And I'm serious with that, but thank you very much for that. All right, well, let us know. If you, okay, let us just return here a moment. If you recognize something here, all of these individuals who would have committed suicide, they were individuals of importance. We have king, 4 kings. Samson a judge, armor bearer, Judas a disciple. Do you know it is believed that people, the folk in high positions in society, they commit suicide more than the common man. At this time, we'll take a break for excitement's sake. Colin.
I would be what I wanted to be. I thought I could build on the sinking sand, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I thought I could do a lot on my own. I thought I could make it all alone. I thought of myself as a mighty big man, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Oh, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountains too high and the valleys too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I think that I make Jesus my all. From now on, when I'm in trouble, on Him I will call. If I don't trust Him, I'll be less than a man. You see, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Oh, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountains too high and the valleys too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountains too high and the valleys too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. I can't even walk. I can't even walk. I can't even walk without you holding my hand.
Well, you know this guy, Eminem. When his girlfriend left him, he overdosed. You all know this lady, right?
Diana.
Diana? 5 times she attempted it.
Yeah?
5 times. You know what? When she was pregnant with her first boy, what's his name? William. She threw herself down the stairs. Boom, 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 boom. Threw herself.
Because of Charles.
You know the other ones again, right? The girl that bowed her head and so on? Britney Spears? Well, you know her, right? Was deemed the world's most beautiful woman at one time? Halle Berry? And you guys know him, right? Sammy Davis. Yes, music man. And y'all know the other fellow? Y'all don't know him? Lord have mercy. That's a gay fellow. Elton John.
So Elton.
And then you know the other one, right? Elizabeth Taylor. And they say that she committed suicide. That's what they said? No. Now, the list of famous individuals who have committed suicide, the list, it is endless. Let me just flash through some now. These are names of some of the folk. You wouldn't get your name to read. The Mark Anthony, the list goes on, or Taro Gatti, all of these guys. Now just look the list. Just look the list. And here, if you look, you're going to see their composers, their this star, their that, people who are just way up there, right? The list goes on. I'm only at F here, right? The list goes on. And I didn't give you all, right? Yes, Adolf Hitler committed suicide too, right? The list goes on. The list goes on.
Alexander.
The list goes on. The list goes on. Individuals of prominence. It is believed that Sigmund Freud, you know Sigmund Freud, committed suicide. Cleopatra, Mark Antony, Brutus, Nero. These are some of the individuals who committed suicide. Socrates, Marilyn Monroe, and even Pontius Pilate. Because the problem, the situation that individuals are facing, it appears to be what? Overwhelming. Or because of shame, because of failure, individuals believe that the best thing that they should do is to take their lives. I know some of you right now, you're wondering, would we discuss whether or not suicide is a sin? And would we discuss whether or not those who commit suicide, whether they are going to make it to heaven or they're going to make it to hell? Will we discuss that? Yes, we are going to. So we're going to answer the question, but just let us look for a moment. What are some of the warning signs of suicide? Question? Someone has a question? Who has it? Someone says question? Okay, good. Number one is what? No, let me. Number one is what? Purposelessness. People believe that, listen, there is no sense for me. I don't feel, that sense of belonging anymore. So even though you're successful, you just feel this way. The next is what? Anger. So you're just angry with somebody. So you go and you commit suicide. They're warning signs, right? When individuals feel trapped, feeling like there's what? No way out. Bills and bills and bills. Problem in your family. Husband problem, wife problem, children problem, school problem, everything. So you feel trapped. The next is what? Signs we're dealing with, right? Withdrawal. So you withdraw from family, from friends, from work, from school, from activity. So all of a sudden you are isolated. You're isolating yourself. The next is what? Recklessness. You know a lot of folk you into stunt all at a sudden, Colin. You want to go do bungee jumping, or just like that you want to go on the sky safari. You don't like those things, but you want to go there. You want to go deep sea diving and all of that. I asked Brother Kenneth to take me diving, but that's other sign, people, don't worry. Right? Then there is altered personality or appearance.
Yeah.
So your personality has just changed. And some folk, you know, they used to be this neat freak, and then after a while, guess what happened? You just dress anyhow. But then there's also the flip side of it, where you were a ragged person, raggedy, but then all of a sudden you start to dress what? Neat and nice. You're looking as smooth as silk.
Silky.
Yes, the next is what? Becoming more what? Isolated. So you're pulling away from people. We continue, let's look as it relates to teens in particular, because we talk about general. And we have so many young people who are committed. Now remember, you can ask a question at any time. I'm happy to have Charlene here, and Charlene has done some work in this area too, so we're going to share. If I can answer a question, Charlene is going to answer. There are some individuals who would joke about suicide. You're joking that you're going to kill yourself. Don't worry, I killed myself. The next is what? Giving away prized possessions. So you give away your iPod, you give away your iPhone, you give away your sneakers. So you're just giving away. You give away all those things? Huh? You give away a football shoe? Remember to call him this evening at 8:30. Making sure you know where he is. So then those who are preoccupied with, you know, death, violence, you know, those who want, you know, TV, movies, drawing and books, plays and so on, all of a sudden having several accidents resulting in injuries. So today you fall down, you broke your toe. Next week you fall down, you break your hand. Next thing you sprain your leg.
Break your hip.
You know, yes. A lot of accidents happening, right? Then there's the next one, dropping grades in school. So because your mind is somewhere else, your grades plummet, then withdrawal from friends and family, and then we have unusual neglect of personal appearance, so you look anyhow. So this is in particular to young people, and I just share with you, I think, three additional. The first is what? Suddenly what? Happier and calmer. Some people, you're laughing up for everything. You're laughing, you're happy, you're smiling. What happened? Just like that, right? Colin, now you serious, you smiling. No, but this is serious, right? These are signs that you actually look for. Then you have what? The loss of what? Interest in things you once cared about. And then you start visiting and what? Calling people you once cared for. This is what Ahithophel did. You're setting your house in order. So you call this person, you write this person, you go on and visit this person who in Japan and everything. So guess what happens? You want to make sure that you touch base with everybody. And finally, what? Making arrangements and setting one's affair in order. Questions? Yes, Colin. Use the mic, please.
Any one sign can be attributed to something else, but at what point in time do you, or how should you, as a friend, make an observation that these are changes you're seeing in family member, friend, spouse? What do you say? What do you do? I think that's coming, so if it's coming, I can wait.
Yes, it's coming. Yes, that's coming. What do you do? All right, any other question or so on? Okay, good. So let us go on. Few concepts. But by the way, let me tell you, I have buried a few of my young people who committed suicide. I remember this girl was just about 18 years and she had this boyfriend. They were together. He was planning to go study to be a pastor. She's going to be the pastor's wife. And she's going to sing with him, you know, before he preaches, of course, and so on. I did some, it's an area where we did, what is it? Can't even remember the stuff, but I spent about 2 weeks doing lectures and so on, you know, teaching folk to be missionaries and so on. And there was some fallout. Well, the fallout was that the guy didn't want to be a pastor anymore. So because he didn't want to be a pastor anymore, her bubble was burst. So she was there with everybody, happy, busy as a bee. Then she went home and she took about 4 to 5 tablets, mix up of all sorts. She just swallowed them and she slept.
Forever.
That was one. And then I had a case, one girl, she did it again, and others wanted to commit it after her. But by the way, we had a classic, no, I shouldn't say a classic case in Guyana, where a young girl, brilliant, returned from the US, graduated from university, and she took a journey up to the Kaitro waterfalls, the highest one-drop falls in the world, plummeted some 741 feet, the first drop, massive. Go on YouTube and type Kaitro Falls, you'll see it. And that girl was there with everybody, they're doing the tour, looking, and guess what happened? She's lingering behind, and then she just dashed, and just ran and just jumped over. So you imagine you're jumping like from a 70-story building, and you're coming down. But then I have a question to ask you guys. Should I ask you now, or let me give the counsel? Let me ask you now. You folk remember September 11th?
Yeah.
Yes.
9/11, right?
Yeah.
9/11.
Yeah.
There were some individuals in the 8th or something floor, etc. And they jumped out of the building. Did those individuals commit suicide? Just hold a moment, one by one. Dr. James. Jivar, you're not working. Dr. James, please. No, hold a moment, keep it, reserve it, please.
Put your hand up and you get the mic.
I take Jivar and then I take the hand in the corner there. Yes, Doc.
Well, since suicide had to do with one's motives or intentions, I think their intention was to get away from the present danger. So they may not have been thinking as such about committing suicide. They were thinking about getting away from danger. But of course they knew that by getting away from that danger, they were putting themselves in another danger. So it's kind of difficult to say.
All right, good, thanks. You had your, okay, Carrie's? Go to Carrie's there. Come in, please.
Of course, the jump out is saved, you know, like maybe there's a mattress that's a company, something that got up and suddenly just jump and
all right, suppose, right? Good, all right, Scarborough.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I don't like to piggyback what the elder is saying, because interestingly, this morning someone in Philadelphia were examining the life of the woman with the issue of blood. And one of the things that was pointed out was the fact that when someone's unclean and they touch someone else who is, in Christ's case, she was trying to reach out to Christ. According to the Levitical law, that person would have to be stoned to death. But she was reaching out to be healed. So the motive really, I agree that the motive.
So you are committing suicide in an attempt to live.
You are risking everything possible that you will live.
So you risk suicide to live.
You risk everything.
So if you commit suicide or not? Colin.
But Pastor, you're leading this. You're saying you're committing suicide to live by, so you're answering the question.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm asking.
Well, the plane hits the building. It's burning. Things are falling down. You look outside. You're 80 floors up, and you jump.
Hoping that
I'm not quite sure about the hope, but you might be thinking something may happen between 80 and 0. But right now, I'm sure that I'm going to burn to death, or something's going to fall on me. They're trying to roll the dice. I don't know.
Do you know the Jews believe that they prefer to commit suicide rather than to die at the hand of anyone else?
Yes.
If you study the whole Masada issue, those who went into that place of refuge after the burning of Jerusalem in AD 70, when they killed themselves rather than allowing themselves to be killed by the Romans who surrounded them. Okay, yes. Paul.
Okay.
No, just not Paul.
Yeah, just giving my opinion on that same 9/11 thing. My opinion, I guess we'll never know because people jumped off are all dead. But I think it's just a matter of choice. Longer death by burning or a quick death by jumping out. I think it's a choice to make.
So, was it suicide?
Yes, I think so.
According to the definition, okay, I'll take one more.
Pastor, what about the 8th
Pastor, I think it was a...
Okay, one moment.
The
Sorry.
18th of November 1978 in Guyana, when Mr. Jim Jones gave all the 700,000 of people the poisons to drink.
No, well, they committed suicide. Yeah, mass suicide, you call that. And you get your dates correct, man. Yes.
It was to me it was a 50-50 chance because from videos that I've seen, I don't know if I've seen it, but some people were jumping out the window and I think they had some stuff down here for them at the bottom.
They had stuff at the bottom?
I was asking. Well, to me it was a 50-50 chance, I would say, because if you jump out the window, maybe they think somebody I would think.
No, because now, remember, what someone could also say that you don't know what's going to happen. Somebody could possibly rescue you.
Yeah, that's what I want.
That is what Ken say. Let me take Charlene and then we go on. I'll take Charlene and then yes, I'm going to give Ireland the opportunity. He had his answer.
Okay, I'm speaking for my. She said it was just a reflex action. It's just automatic that I'm going to go to say, we're in a car, somebody's chased, you're in a car, the person is going past and they say accident, the immediate reflex action to do, open, they don't want to jump out, and that happens so many times.
So that's reflex suicide.
And they die, and the person in the car, it's not suicide at all. They were trying to escape. If they wanted to die, they would stay right there and they would die. It's not suicide, they were trying to...
Alright, let me hear Ireland then leave.
Saying after the police told us, the people saw what was going on. If they saw two things. If they were to stay there, they probably would die. If they jumped out of the building, there's something in their head said maybe they might live because people fall from all over the place and so maybe they're thinking the same thing. They're okay with a die now or jump and possibly live.
No, by the way, let me just ask. Sorry you know, thinking of my face like that, right? I didn't mean any hurt, but for me, I believe
they take the chance by
in terms of reality and in the land of possibility, it's possible for me to live with the plane in the building rather than jumping above 90 stories. Right? Yes! Because I don't know anybody besides Superman.
Make believe.
I don't know anybody besides Superman. Now, we got to go on people. Pardon? One second, please.
You have the mic. What's it? You have the mic, you know.
Mike.
When I was trying to carry my first child, I'm still working around, but they used to go on and contributing up money for them. And I was held up at one point. My belly was big. The guy held me up at one point, took the bag away from me and ran. And I ran behind the fellow. I don't know what I did. Following to get back the bag. That's right.
So that's following suicide. You are following suicide. Alright, Robin. Give Robin the mic, please.
Pastor, according to your definition, is suicide if the intention to take your life or voluntary take that is suicide?
Now, here, the truth is, right? If we, okay, one moment.
Let's get back.
It's only because it's not a page. I was going on, but you know, if I don't allow her to talk, I don't know what my comes tonight. Suicide.
I honestly don't think that any of those persons will commit suicide. Your definition when you started of suicide is that it's intentional.
Or voluntary, yeah.
So when those persons left home that morning, they didn't have any thoughts of any suicide, right? At that point, everything happened so fast, and most of us can't even remember where it was when 9/11 took place. It happened so fast, they didn't have time to think rationally, right? And especially those who were in the second building, when you saw the first building coming down, you know that your building is going to be coming down too, right? So jumping out of a window, it's just a natural reaction because you're desperate to save yourself. So nothing was intentional about that in terms of killing yourself. It was just jumping with the hope that I might live, because staying in the building was sure, especially if you witness the first building going down, that you definitely will die. So that's it. No suicide, it's just a hope.
Alright, now that is correct. That is correct. Now, you see here, the truth is that I don't know how, I don't think it's for us to, let us say, you know, whether or not, but something as it relates to stimulating, you know, the discussion on the whole subject of suicide, because it's an act of desperation, an act of hope that something can possibly just happen out of the blues. That's what can happen. Let us just look. You see, one of the things you should do, you should never keep suicide a secret. Pardon? Never keep the plan of suicide a secret. If somebody comes to you and says that they want to commit suicide, you cannot keep it a secret. Let me tell you this. Donna has kept many secrets of stuff that folk would have mentioned to her, the problem as young people, so. But she has mentioned to me at umpteen cases, folk who want to commit suicide. You can't keep it a secret. Why? Look at this, read everybody. Now, you see, don't worry about a relationship or a friendship that would be broken, or they say that you breach confidentiality.
Life saving.
You can save a life. That's what you're going to do. You're going to save a life. And rather than going to a funeral service and saying, I should have said something. And trust me, the individuals are going to thank you afterwards. That's what they're going to do. The second is, don't try to minimize problems or shame a person into changing their mind. You know, sometimes in life, we try to tell people, I understand, or everybody, you know what I mean? No. Our metals are different. That is what it is. You see, your opinion of a person's situation is irrelevant. So you don't have to tell, no, don't do that because of what, and in an attempt at times to tell people that the problems that they're encountering, it is nothing big. You actually make it worse. I know of a case of a policeman who was driving along and he was crossing, I can't remember the name of the bridge in the US, and there was this guy about to jump, and he called out to the guy. He said, hold it, hold it, hold it. So the guy stopped. So he said, now listen, your problem isn't big. Don't worry yourself. So the guy said, listen, if you convince me that life is worth living, I'm going to come over the railing. Do you know what happened? The police joined him and the two of them jumped. And now trust me, this is real life, real. So don't try to minimize problems. All you have to do is to assure people that, listen man, you see, we can work this through. That is what, allow the pain, allow them to feel their pain. That is what you have to do. You tell a man, there's nothing, I know sister so, she was born in pain and so. You're not sister so. You there with me everybody? Any comments? Because we have some question and answer here. Any comments? And then we're going to get to Colin Aspect. Good. Question number 1. People who talk about suicide wouldn't really do it. True or false? True or false? All those who say true, raise your hand. So overwhelming. No, the answer is false. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have taken that. So you raise your hands. I really wanted to pick your mind here. Now you know those individuals who commit suicide. It's believed that at least sometimes they would have tried committing suicide 5 times and so before, or they would have contemplated that, you know, they're talking, but when they're talking, they're contemplating it, they tried different means before. I saw an advertisement of a young lady who jumped off of a building. She went up, blah, and she got up, said, number 14. That's what the advertisement said. Number 14. That's the 14th time she tried. Right? Next question. Anyone who tries to kill him or herself must be crazy. True or false? Pardon? True? Who said true? No, the person who said true. Raise your hand. Yes, Shirley, go tell us.
Come Shirley, talk to the mic.
No, I don't
Bad. What she's thinking, she said even though she took it.
Alright, good. So now, okay.
I think
Cecilia, please listen now.
I think people want to kill themselves for a reason. If the reason happens to change, they're not going to feel the need.
Alright, good. The need. Alright. Please give it to Colin and then I take Tremaine and then Tremaine and then we go on. Yes. Yes.
I know there are cases where persons wanting to kill themselves have been prevented to do so because we put them on the watch. You strap them down. You don't give them the opportunity to do so. And the point Dennis was making is that the list of things that you said drives persons to suicide, if Christ can if Christ gets through, if they get a moment and that purposelessness is replaced with purpose, or that depression is replaced with joy, then the person will not kill themselves. So the thing is, and that's the reason you don't keep it a secret. If you hear that Colin wants to kill himself, you tell somebody so we can have an intervention. That intervention may be as strong as medically committed Colin to a place to prevent him from killing himself, because the act after death, there is nothing else.
Thank you very much. Jermaine, and then we Jermaine, right across here. Green top. Seconds.
Okay. I think I agree with Cecilia and Zahiro to a certain extent. I believe that once a person believes in their mind that there's no hope for them, blah blah blah, then it's simple. A person has to be open, mentally, whatever. They have to be open to counseling in order for it to work. That is my opinion. The amount of intervention or whatever, the person will say, yeah, I study you, I still want to do this. They have to be open and willing to accept the help in order for it to make a difference and change their mind.
Thank you. Do you know more than 99% of the folk who commit suicide, they don't want to die? What happened? They do not want to die. What happened is simple. They have a problem that's overwhelming in their lives. So what happened is that I want to get rid of that problem. I want to get rid of that pain. So guess what happened? The only way that I can get rid of the pain is to get rid of me. So really and truly, they don't want to die. Because you know what? I went into a village. And there's this fellow. You know everybody gets false name in the Caribbean, right? His name was cut down the road. I don't know what happened. So I decided to find out what happened with the fellow. He tried to agony himself. But he jumped, bumped the thing and snapped his neck. So he left hanging there. And he started to feel the pain. So he started to shout, "Cut down the rope." That's what he's crying out, "Cut down the rope, cut down." Them fellas, now listen, them fellas were so wicked. They stood up there and leave him, right? Until he kind of did. Then they cut it down. So you know what happened in that moment when you start to feel the pain and so on? Listen, they want to live right away. Because as the Pope would simply say to you is that you get depressed, right? When your coping mechanism, it is outweighed by your problem. So all you're seeing is what? This problem is insurmountable, I can't do nothing, so you want to get rid of the problem. You know, sometimes you love a dog, but the dog has a problem with fleas. They try treatment and it's not going away. So in order to get rid of the flea, we have got to do, put down the dog. You can give the dog away. Good. Let us go to the next. People who commit suicide are people who are unwilling to seek help. That's false. Easy one. And the next, talking about suicide may give someone the idea. True or false? Alright, hold on a moment, please. Wait, is it the policeman?
Yeah, the policeman. Yeah.
Okay, Colin.
I answer it this way.
Yes.
So we're giving somebody an idea about suicide right now.
That's what they're thinking to get hope, that it doesn't influence somebody here. That's what
or you're saying the way we talk about that.
No, talking about suicide. Whatever way you talk about it. You're on the false side. You see, this is false. Oh, sorry. Yes, Jimmy.
I was going to say yes and no. If someone is already open to the ideal and talking about so it might give them idea. But if you're close from the ideal, then it's definitely false.
All right. Elder Williams. 4 or 5 seconds.
Too much information on how to commit suicide. can lead those who are very overwhelmed to try the methodology to see if it works.
All right. Now, as it relates to talking about suicide, I'll give you the Ceciles. You know, the opposite is actually true when you try to conceal stuff about it. When you actually expose people to what it is. We are sensitizing individuals as it relates to signs and symptoms. It helps. Yes. Sister Cecilia, yes.
Someone asked me a good while. The Lord made us in the inception, right? And if He know that we will kill ourselves, why He actually, made us?
Why He made us?
Yes. If He know, because He know the future of all of us here, He know that we was going to kill ourselves, why did He, let us go through the whole procedure of being born and living life?
He doesn't alter our choices. That's it.
Free will.
Simple. Free will.
The same thing as if He knew that Adam and Eve would have sinned. Why did He make us?
That's it. Let us go quickly. Facts about suicide. The strongest risk factor of suicide is depression. Depression. Pardon? Depression is a mental, of course, illness. Feeling overwhelmed with circumstances, and it manifests itself in different ways, being numb at times. People who are depressed, they become very abusive at times too. There are different ways in which it's manifested. You isolate yourself, etc. Depression and anxiety. At times, anxiety could be something of a moment. It can be more short-term, while depression, it is something that's more continual. And we get anxious over certain things and so on, yeah. And then, of course, people are diagnosed and so on with depression. There are different forms of treatment. In 2010, depression was the #1 disability in the world. That's what the World Health Organization said. Facts about suicide, there are twice as many deaths due to suicide and HIV/AIDS. Yes.
Something to joke about it. Many of the medication that persons prescribe for, depression, and so I think it might lead towards a person committing suicide, because if you're taking a pill that is supposed to help you with, one of the side effects is the suicidal thoughts, then,
Depression. For depression, actually, the side effect is depression.
It's depression.
More depression.
More depression, yeah. I got you. I hear you well. By the way, just yesterday, I shared it with Elder Addy. Oh, and I think I mentioned it this morning. I was really startled when it was highlighted that the U.S. troops right now in Afghanistan, man, listen, for the first 5 months of the year, at least one suicide a day. So they have lost more individuals to suicide than war.
Pastor.
And we're not talking here about the suicide bomber strapping stuff and killing people. Where these guys would have placed a gun to their head, hanging themselves, overdosing, etc.
And Pastor, he also said that...
1 second please. Call it Levy.
The news item also said that persons who have never gone to the war commit more suicide than persons who actually goes to war. Yeah.
Yep. And sometimes those who come after, the post-stress from the war and so on.
Yes.
Because you have this feeling of, you don't worth anything. Now listen to this now. On an average of one person dies by suicide every 16.2 minutes. Right? Now when you talk about places like China, etc., right? Where people just kill themselves. Now look at this one. There are 4 male suicides for every 3 female. But yes. No, so 4 male suicides. So when 4 men kill themselves, they got one woman. Yes.
4 to 1.
Yes, Colin.
4 to 1 is murder.
4 to 1.
Is it a function of the isolation factor? Because we have a tendency as men not to really talk about not coping with our problems. Is that potentially one of the reasons?
I will not necessarily say that, because look at this. Hold up a moment, please. Look at this. There are 3 female suicide attempts for every male attempt. So the thing is that the ladies attempt suicide more than men, but they are not as successful as men. Pardon? You're smarter? So it means then that you don't really want to die. No, hold a moment. Hold on. No. 1 second. Now, 1 moment, please. Can we have some order? Charmin, by saying that, you have just deconstructed what you said earlier, that those who want to kill themselves would do it anyway, because you say they're smarter.
When the dead people decided to injury attempt, women it's just attention.
Oh, so the women want attention. So there's strategy that you come with. Alright, good. Let me take Shirley. I want to hear from Shirley now.
The mic is on.
I believe that suicide, people commit suicide, they're selfish. Selfishness. On the other hand, a woman might attempt suicide, but a woman is a caregiver, and she will think about her children,
yes, I believe
who she's leaving behind, and all those things. So, although she attempts, these are things that pull her back. She thinks about her family, right? So women are less selfish.
I agree with that. I concur.
All right. Okay, Paul. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that women fail because they change their minds. I just think that they're not efficient.
All right. I may concur with Paul in terms of the efficiency.
But she gave us the answer. She said that they want attention. So they do it, but they knew that they didn't want to die this time. They just want
attention. The truth is, right, as was said before, right, and I'm going to put up something on the screen a little while. You see, what you want, you do not want death. When you look at when you corner a man, let us look, for instance, at this guy, Mugabe, them guys who killing so many. Now when they hear of death, you know what they're doing? They run in. Look at Saddam Hussein and so on. Nobody wants to die. Now, I take Colin or Sister James. Yes.
This morning on 3 a.m., James Bratchell had John Bratchell, sorry. He had a beautiful program about depression. And what you have said about the women, he said, well, it's 2 parts, so I don't know if the next one will come on next Sabbath morning. But he was interviewing a doctor from the Weimar Institute. And depression, as you said, is the #1 thing. And to me, it seems that before people think about suicide, depression comes in. Now, he said 1 in 4 women are depressed, compared to 1 in 8 men. So what you're saying, the women are attempting more than the men. It's just that, for whatever reason. And we are laughing, but it's not a joke, It's not a joke, because when the doctor said, I think his name is Dr. Levy, he said when they told him that, he says he is originally an internist. And when they said that most people who come to the doctor are depressed, he said he didn't believe him. And he ran his own tests. And he realized that depression is very prevalent. And you know, Pastor, we have to take stock of ourselves as Christians, you know, because there's a lot of depression in the church.
Lots of insomnia.
In church, crazy people. You know, now when I said, and it may not be real, people are not coping with the problems. And we don't know. And stop the laughing, because it's not a laughing matter. You know? It's not a laughing matter. People are coming up to you and they are smiling, but they're not happy.
And remember, a lot of folk, they actually cover. They hide behind that little sadness here, right? The smile and so on. And one of the things that we do too as it relates to depression, you see, we hold on to the past, etc. And you have so many things that are actually pent up. And we believe at times, by ignoring things, that things are going to get better. But trust me, you got to actually go through, you got to break down those walls in order for you to get peace. Yes. Because guess what? You will not be moving, you will just be marking time. You're going to be marking time, and you're going to be, you're anxious today you're happy tomorrow. So we got to be willing to confront certain things, to deal with it, so that we can actually get out of those states of depression and anxiety and all of those other mental illnesses. Yes. Colin, you take Colin, and then I go to, I'm watching my time.
Right, so I say quickly. This entire program and the stats that you were before us, days before suicide. The first one was actually a friend of my best friend back in Jamaica, and what happened is that she was very depressed about the conditions under which she was living. Her mother, a single parent, tried to support them, but the money just wasn't flowing as it should, and she got very depressed that she wasn't able to enjoy the things of life that she wanted. And as a result, she didn't want her mother to suffer anymore of having to provide for her. So what she did was try to eliminate herself out of the picture. She saw herself as a problem. Why her mother had to work so hard and was not able to meet her financial goals and needs. So what she did, she took a bunch of pills. But as was shown earlier, there are three out of 4 attempts are not successful from the female side, and she was not successful in her attempt of committing suicide. On the other hand, later down the road, her sister, who was at university, NCU to be specific, she attempted suicide 2 years later because she faced the same financial difficulties. She was in her final year, and because her sister tried previously and all the attention now was on her sister, monitoring her sister to ensure that she got what she needed and that everything was alright with her post her previous attempt. She got depressed, she tried to commit suicide utilizing the same method, and she failed too. So suicide is also catchy based on what I have seen. One person tried it and another person facing the same situation remembers what somebody else did to try and escape that problem.
Thank you very much. And do you know, I was online as I was doing research for this presentation, which is actually a backup on something I did earlier in, I think, 2009. I know I said, I'm feeling depressed, I'm unhappy, I don't like my home. You know the question? What mode of suicide do you prefer? Let me tell you this.
Everything is online.
Now, the stuff, it is there.
Everything online.
They tell you how to do it.
YouTube and
what is the easier way and everything. I know of one case of a friend, and she was so livid with the other one. She was there chatting with her on Facebook, And while she's chatting, she's telling her what she's doing, and she just took all of the pills, you know. But the thing is that she didn't know the location of the individual. So all she knows now is that this individual drank 55 pills. But I don't know where she is. Because she is there, just chatting with me and so on. So it's not easy, and we have to, you have a problem, speak out. Speak out, don't keep it in, don't keep it in. It's going to just be as a volcano, it's there, and then it's going to erupt. Charmaine, I go to Dennis and I see Floyd's hand, and then we come to Charlene.
Pastor, just in keeping with your last statement, don't keep it in. Some of us are so selfish that we don't even find a good friend where we can talk and express ourselves. But something you said about depression, that we must try not to get depressed, but we need to understand that sometimes it's because of a mental illness why we are depressed. So if you find yourself being depressed often, then you need to seek help. Maybe your friend might not be able to help you. It's okay. Some people say, oh, I'm not going to any psychologist or any psychiatrist. It's okay to go to them. They are trained. They know how to deal. No, it's not a shrink also. They know how to deal with it, with God. It can be...
That's true.
Yeah.
You go there and you save yourself. Dennis, and then we go to Floyd. Okay, and then we come to Charlie.
There are 4 male suicides for every female suicide, right? I and the other one, the female attempt, I want to blame it on society and the structure of society and societal stereotypes.
No, go on again.
The stereotypes we have in society should be blamed for the 4 male suicides for every female suicide. We talk about sometimes that if you want to commit suicide, go and talk to somebody or whatever. But how society portrays a male individual as somebody who
macho
kicks in their problems, they're strong, they don't feel nothing, they're big and everything. Female now, all she goes to whoever and she just cries her problems and all of a sudden she feels better. It's how society teaches young children right now. In, for example, social studies or whatever, I don't really do something, how they portray how a man is supposed to act is like, okay, you have sense to yourself, but it's how society, it's how you are to be seen in society. You are to be seen as a tough individual who gets over any problem. I can go to this, I can go to that, nothing can happen. It's how society makes you feel about yourself.
Okay, good, thanks. While we pass the mic to Floyd, one of the things as it relates to the, I don't know if I should say not success rate. Well, he's saying success rate. What happened? You see the method that the men utilize, not no efficient. They use the more reckless means. So, you know, for instance, where a woman would drink a pill, you know, you see some guys you believe driving crazy down the road. You think they're just driving fast? Some is suicide they want to commit. I know of a fellow who waited for a truck to pass by one and then jumped in front of that truck. Serious. So you see the things that men would do. It's like these guys, I mean, they say here, I'm going the full distance. And they try to do it in a way that is going to be quick. But I mean, it is not a laughing, so we have to look for people, look at the signs, Floyd, and then I come to Charlene.
That's what Dennis was saying. Some parents say it's all.
Yeah, I believe that this evening's discussion is very good. It stimulates a lot of questions, ideas, and so forth. I hope that it is in no way trying to influence persons in committing suicide, and I know that's not the case. But I just want to ask.
You can find everything online. You can find everything online, boy.
Depression and how it can influence someone. And yes, medical records will show that because of certain fluctuation in hormones and stuff that you have persons going into that state. But what about demon possession? You know, in terms of suicide. You know, what can you say? What can you say about that?
All right, I have. Now let me just say, I have encountered many cases of
demon
possession. I do not know if someone is demon possessed, if we can really and truly say it is suicide, since the person isn't under control of themselves. I've seen cases of where the demon would have thrown people off of 3-story buildings and so on.
Right mind and also commit suicide is because people will want to do it, but if you question the possible is the influence behind it, and we attribute that as well to hormonal, influence and so forth.
See, the difference is demon possession is a part of the spiritual warfare. As a matter of fact, when you go to someone and you're evaluating, you try to see if the person could be schizophrenic or suffering from some other form of mental illness rather than being demon possessed. But we know of cases where individuals would have been thrown in front of vehicles and so on because they were under the possession of demons.
Charlie.
Yes.
Go to Charlie.
So I get your point. It's a tough one, but I don't think I would label it as a suicide. It's where the devil tried to eliminate the person. Yes, Charlie.
You know, problems are real, and whatever problem I have versus whatever problem you have, and how you measure your problem, you know, we have to respect that. But we have to also recognize that we have a hope as Christians, and the blessed hope that we were created and God promised never to give us more than we can be, and that's what we're supposed to share to others. And many times even in the church we have people who are going through issues and maybe they speak to us, but eventually we get tired of them and tired of hearing their sad story, so we start avoiding the person, and the person comes up to you all the time and all they're talking is sadness, and so eventually you don't want to take up that person's call anymore. Those are calls for help, and we are placed here to help people because all of us go through a sense of sadness. Now, clinical depression is another thing, and is another problem, and we recognize where I might not be able to help someone, and I might be able to refer them to get professional help. You know, someone said that suicide is an act of selfishness, full stop, but it isn't in all cases where persons actually are suffering from clinical illnesses and need help, not the rational thinker who has the bills and can't go through life anymore and just decide, I'm going to end it today, a rational person versus a mentally ill person. So there are two different, or even the teen who's going through their stages of self-identity, etc. So we are placed to recognize, number one, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, so we don't kill ourselves, and knowing that God is able to help us doesn't matter what, and so we have to spread that message as well, and be open to persons with all their problems and teach them and speak to them about these things, that we know that suicide is never the end it all, you know. So I feel like dying today. I've had enough, I'm tired. I mean, God created me, but this is it. That's a thing.
Thank you very much. You know, when you look at, by the way, you know, suicide, it's funny, it's higher during the spring. The rate of suicide, it's higher during the springtime. And then what you find also, I don't know, they're still trying to figure out the percentage during spring. It just skyrockets. More so also not on Carnival, but also what they find, you see, when you have spouses living together, those old folk, no sooner than one individual dies, you find suicide rate is very high amongst them, because guess what happened? They just say, listen, I have to go also. Alex, you have your hand up? I'll take Alex for 60 seconds, and then I take Sister James for 60 seconds.
Oh, Pastor, just a quick addition to this
Well, you should be carrying the right one.
Yeah, I'm carrying it. Yeah, Pastor, just a quick addition. You see, the person that tried committing suicide, what I just remembered, so you see this gothic thing that these young people taking on the music, it is highly influencing them to do these things. They're not even, if you listen to some of the music that they listen to, you see them come with their black fingernails and all kind of stuff. You listen to the music that they listen to, and you will realize that many of it, the persons are singing the songs, after you listen to the song, all they want to do is kill yourself. You don't have no value, you don't have money in your life. You do so. Yes. Yeah, and it has, and what happened, you see, after we realized that was the problem with her, and we told her, we got rid of the music that she was listening to, and after that, there was a diminishing of the inclination to want to use again.
Thank you. Alex, 60 seconds, Alex, 60 seconds.
Say, my questions had to do more along the lines of parenting, and from being in the world right now, and especially the professional aspects, work. You see, people come out to work who are not prepared for the demands, etc., that work places on them. Yeah. And then I look at the school system, and I look at how parents, they run in this derby, so want the children to succeed, that they do the work for the school children, for the children too, because the child need to come first. The children are not being equipped, neither from a spiritual perspective, an educational perspective, or a common sense perspective. And then they come out into the world here, and the parents think that they gave the children everything, from the iPads to whatever it is, to the smartphone. And then they got a lot of sharks out here in the world that governs these people up, diminishes their values, and then guess what? There is no rebound, they have no sustenance, no ability. In fact, they don't even know how to reach out to God in some cases because they're more than 45. And a lot of us think that we are parenting. But what we're doing, they're trying to be competitive, and we're trying to equip the children, we want them to come first. Yeah. So you do the work for them, you do a lot of things for the children, and guess what? When they come out into the real world, they can't survive because they're not equipped.
I thank you very much. Now, let me just say something here to you. See why I decided to go down this line? You see, my homeland, we have a high number of suicide. Very, very high. And you see, even within the school system, with this whole competition, a child who, now listen, I know a girl who was going to the most prestigious school. She was always coming first in her class. And trust me, the one term that she did not come first, that was it. You see, I have here, I came up with this: suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It is a permanent solution. That's it, you're done. But guess what? The problem is temporary. Sister James, 60 seconds.
Yes.
And then I go to Donna.
One, we are saying that people should talk to other people about their problems. But you see this whole quarter we are studying? Training is necessary. Everybody cannot help you with your problem. You talk to certain people and you only make it worse. Because they don't have no training and they can't help you. They only make it worse. If we look at Jesus' life, Jesus got up early in the morning and to set his course, he prayed and talked to his Father. And you know, ever since I've been in the church, I always hear we need to develop a personal relationship with God. We need to read our Bibles and we need to learn to pray. And Jesus spent a lot of time in prayer. And when in the Bible, Sister White says, when the disciples said, Lord, teach us how to pray. It was the fact that many times they said, Jesus, all this way was living in. Listen, dealing with people is hard work. They drain you.
Yes.
I remember once my mother was sick, Pastor, and a woman came to look after her. She said, Mrs. James, if I don't get you, I'm not coming back. It's hard work. And we are trying all kind of things. And you know what happened to us now as Adventists? We give up gone. That's old fashioned. And now we just like the word. Pastor, we never used to die so young.
2 seconds remaining.
Yeah. But prayer is the solution.
That's it.
And when we have problems, we need to ask God who to go to.
Yes.
To talk to.
Thank you very much.
We cannot talk to everybody. Some people, when we talk to them and we tell them what they've done, you know what happened? We frighten them.
No, so now, what you're doing, you see, your best friend is not always the person to talk to.
Right.
There are certain issues in your life you can't tell anybody about. You know, I have a problem that, let's say for instance, I was molested as a child and I'm going to tell somebody who, you know what I mean, let us say, I may not be able to come up with the correct scenario, but you can just add burden. And you don't go anywhere, so you got to be very selective, look at the professionals, etc., and speak to them. I know there are a few meetings, so just let us commit me, let us just go for a quick. Donna, that's all right. Thank you.
Sometimes when you talk to people, they get afraid of you. And they don't want to be around you anymore.
Yes, so let us work. Is suicide a sin? Is suicide a sin? I guess we all would concur that suicide is a sin. The Bible says, of course, thou shalt not kill. That is what the Bible says. So we know it's taken one's own life. And you see, when people commit suicide to a great degree, is because they lack that faith in God. They lack that faith that God would come true for them in spite of. And of course, the Bible tells us that whatsoever is not of faith is what? Is a sin. But then, I want us to embrace this passage here. Everybody reading it together. 1, 2, 3. What it says?
Every test that you have
experienced is the kind that normally comes to people. But God keeps His promise. And He will not allow you to be tested beyond your power to remain firm. At the time you are put to the test, He will give you the strength to endure it, and so provide you with a way out. At times it's difficult for us to embrace this promise. But let me tell you, we just got to believe it. We have to believe it that God will not give us more than we can bear. But then there's the other question that people ask. Does it therefore mean that those who commit suicide, that they are going to hell? Or they call it a mortal sin or a cardinal sin that there is no forgiveness for? There are lots of division within Christendom as it relates to what it is. We know, for instance, the Catholic, they're very strong on it. I know at one time there are some pastors who were not very people who committed suicide, etc. But that is not something for us to judge. That is something that God is going to judge. And let us forever remember this promise. It says, what? Read everybody. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. They are plans for peace and not disaster. Plans to give you a future filled with hope. What you have to do is just to endure. You're going to go through, but remember the Bible says that even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, Christ is going to be there with you. So just trust Him, just believe in Him. You have to cry out for help. If you have depressive feelings, if you feel like committing suicide, make yourself accountable to somebody. You have to make yourself accountable. That is it. Don't be a lone ranger. Don't take all of your burdens and keep it there. Don't do it. Talk to somebody. There are professionals who are there to help you. Donna had her hands up and Floyd, and then we're going to bring a wrap to it. Yes. And I thank you very much for being out here and for your participation. Yes, Donna, go ahead.
I'm not going to be long, just very short. I think this is a very important topic, and I couldn't help but observe how many persons were laughing at certain scenarios, right? The person next to you might just be somebody who is suicidal, you don't know that. And that we shouldn't laugh and have fun, but we might be sending out a message to persons who are present here who might be in that suicidal state, that, you know, they're stupid or they're idiot, you know, for thinking about doing A, B, and C and so on. So just wanted us to be sensitive about that. Persons who are suicidal, it's just that their coping mechanism, their coping skills, you know, is down to zero, and they just think that there is no other option but to do that. But if perchance they can find the right person to speak to, and we can outline to them that they have option A, B, and C, it might just change the course. And Dennis, when he's not here, you know, for males, just find somebody who you're comfortable speaking with, and if it's somebody who you're comfortable speaking with, I don't think that, you know, they're going to go out and tell people that, you know, aliens want to commit suicide. So men, you have your options as well in finding somebody to open up to.
Thank you very much. And you know, it's just sad, and I guess it's not intentional. Some scenarios that were shared, you know, it seems to be, you know, inciting, you know, laughing, people jumping over and so on. But we don't mean that. It is not something that we are promoting. We don't want anybody at all. Just remember this promise. Remember this promise. Floyd. And then we bring it home. And then I'll ask my young ladies to bring that special rendition for us as we bring a wrap. Yes.
Yes. Anytime things happen, you know, it's a wake-up call for us. And, you know, even as a church, we should not wait until things happen to make us aware of the fact that, you know, there's a possibility of even members in the church finding themselves in situations like, you know, suicide or suicide attempts. You know, I hope and trust that as we continue to be together as a community of believers, our hearts will be uplifted and our lives strengthened to work together to make sure that each one reach one and encourage and support where necessary, so that we can eliminate as much as possible by God's grace these, you know, things that we, you know, push us into depression and things unlike Christ, that we can live happy and fruitful lives here on planet Earth.
I thank you very much.
Pastor,
believers,
this got to be the first of many.
The first of many. Okay. You know, I have dealt with so many young people. Young ladies, you can come, please. Please come. I've dealt with so many young people who have attempted suicide, and those who would have committed, and also adults. I remember one day I was home, I think I was preparing a message, and I got a call. I was doing some work in the school. Every Wednesday I went into that school, was doing some work, and I got a call. A young lady tried committing suicide. And home, once someone attempts suicide and they go to the hospital, the person is not released into the custody of the parents or whoever after. They have to go to the social workers, and they actually take them out of their homes and so on. Trust me, I had to be at that place, I think every day of the week, working to get that young lady out of that home. Because now the thing is that the young lady, now this was so complicated. The young lady said that, listen, if they take, she attempted to commit suicide, it didn't work. And she said, if they send me into, you call it the children home, she said, I'm going to finish it. And then the mother said, they said, if they only take my daughter, I'm going to kill myself. So that was a double whammy. I honestly don't know how, but we worked with the folk and so on. And up to when I left home, they were working together. Young ladies started to come to church and so at times. But let us just remember that help is available. Remember that whatever problem you have, your problem, as insurmountable as it may seem, your problem, it is only temporary. I know that yes, at times you're going to hurt, but remember that God is there for you. He says that He has a bright future for you. And I trust that you would embrace Him, you would trust Him, so that together, after we would have overcome, we can look back and we say, Christ, you have brought me through this. Young ladies. Ladies.
See the other mics. See the other mics, man. Turn on the cordless. Turn it up.
Please, my child, hold on. And I feel you touch me, reminding me to be strong. No, I must admit it's hard for me. See through this hurt and pain, but in your arms I know I'll be free someday. Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes it seems to me that the power of love is gone. Everyone fights, but they want peace. I wonder where we were one. But in my dreams there is a place where the sunlight always. I know it's hard for you to see, but soon there comes a day when love will never end. Broken hearts will mend again. Yesterday has been replaced. Now we have another chance to set someone who's lost. Give them hope, no matter the cost. We'll stand together, come what may. We'll all be free someday. I know it's not easy to laugh with tears on your face, but my friend, just believe in me. I know there's a better place where everyone will be the same, and we don't have to cry no more. So when this world turns you away, just know, my friends, there will be a day love will never end. Broken hearts will mend again. Yesterday has been replaced. Now we have another chance to set someone who's lost. Give them hope, no matter the cost. We'll stand together, come what may. We'll all be free someday. Don't forget without